Good relations between Warsaw and Washington are a pillar of Poland's security. An attempt to harm them is being made by Germany, which, in an effort to push the United States out of Europe, is trying to tear up Polish Americans' arms contracts.
Part of those shared values is an understanding of what we share together from a security standpoint. And I think we should do everything we can to increase that relationship and not to break it up. And I wouldn't listen to the Germans on pretty much anything.
A resolution supposedly to strengthen our security has passed through the European Parliament like a storm. A noble idea, but the devil is in the detail. Manfred Weber, the chairman of the European People's Party, of which Civic Platform is a member, says outright that there must be a special body to control national armies. Joint arms purchases must become an obligation. New armament should come mainly from European companies. We need a common missile and drone defence and our own satellite system. A centre of excellence for innovation based on artificial intelligence is essential. In addition, within the NATO structure, we need to create a joint European military command. A European Chief of Staff should command modernised national armies and make decisions on arms purchases. This means that the Polish military would lose its sovereignty and be dependent on the decisions of the European Union, or rather, Germany. A country that does not control its own army becomes a mere shell. There is no doubt that this is the implementation of this very anti-Polish decision of the European Union and the decision of the Civic Platform, and in the same a week ago, the scandalous decision to liquidate the army and to liquidate the Polish state. Manfred Weber's words coincide dangerously with reports in Germany's Die Tageszeitung. The newspaper, citing sources in the Polish government, argues that Poland is considering breaking arms contracts with the United States. While Poland's left Liberal government, led by Donald Tusk, is trying to salvage what can be salvaged and openly stressing the importance of the US-Poland-NATO alliance partnership, it is internally conducting a review of which US weapon systems would work in a crisis situation, even without continued US support. Germany seeks to have the countries of the old continent buy military equipment exclusively in Europe and thus drive the European, or rather German, economy. Because the practice is that it is the German concern Rheinmetall that will gain the most from this, and this is at the expense of the Polish-American military contracts. So, this means that the Polish taxpayers' hard-earned money will go into the German arms industry, and the equipment ordered from Germany will arrive in Poland in a dozen years or so. Poland needs to arm itself now. There is no time for this kind of experimentation. Even long before the parliamentary elections, Donald Tusk's team announced that some of the contracts modernising the Polish army would be scrapped. If we have the strength and courage, I say with all responsibility, to talk about it today and then get to these agreements, some may have to be reduced as to the number of declared purchases, such as those famous 500 HIMARS. 500 HIMARS, 120 Polish Krabs, 600 Korean howitzers. There's no such army in the world that has that much. For what? Germany has been pursuing a policy of pushing the United States out of Europe for decades. Now, as reported in the Financial Times, Berlin is planning to get rid of American troops from the old continent within this decade. And it is the United States that has repeatedly declared its support for Poland.
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. As you know, they paid more than they had to. They are one of the finest groups of people I've ever known. I'm very committed to Poland.
Poland has armed itself mightily in fear of Russian imperialism. Contracts for state-of-the-art US and Korean equipment could now be broken, and that could damage our crucial transatlantic relationship. Cooperation with the United States should be a priority for Polish authorities, because the United States is the leader of the North Atlantic Alliance. Attempts to push America out of Europe fatally threaten Poland's security. The war in Ukraine has visibly demonstrated that Europe, without the support of the United States, is not ready to clash with Russian imperialism. Not long ago, we heard in the Union about the need to build a green, low-carbon military. With such priorities, independence cannot be defended.
Proszę bardzo.
Look at how they drop them off. They're dropping off migrants, as evidenced not only by recordings like these made by border residents, but also by official documents from Berlin. Prime Minister, German government statistics here in a Bundestag publication show only 24 expulsions from Germany to Poland from the 1st of January to September 2023. Unfortunately, in 2024, this number reaches nearly 9,000. This is also what the German side says in documents available on the Bundestag website. And on top of that, the authorities of the state of Brandenburg are reporting in the media, police turn back hundreds of migrants at Polish border. The number of migrants slightly decreases. It's declining in Germany. When it comes to turning back migrants, it must mean an increase in Poland. But apparently for Donald Tusk, there's a rule that if one's own theory does not match the facts, that's too bad for the facts. In 2023, in the last year of their rule, more migrants were transferred to Poland than during our rule. In the Hamburger Morgenpost, we can also read that the greatest effectiveness in the fight against illegal migration is brought in Germany by the introduction of border controls, including with Poland. And these, let's recall, have been implemented moments before the parliamentary elections in our country in 2023, which clearly shows that in the last year of the Law and Justice government, the practice of Germans pushing migrants to Poland could not occur on such a scale as now. On the other hand, Polish people are doomed to Donald Tusk's cheap publicity because there will be no border controls on the Polish side. From the fact that there is no such need, neither technically, intelligence-wise, nor when it comes to immigration flows. This is the German town of Lokins, near the German border. German authorities have taken on the topic of migration as public emotions are unequivocal. It's your business whether you want them or not. Now they should go from Germany to Poland, then let them go home to Kenya, to Africa, or wherever they come from. We can't handle them all. They will flood us. If they came here from you, then they should come back to you, because we already have enough of them. Poles, however, do not want to make the mistake of Germany, as evidenced by studies but also by protests at the border, in Słubice or Zgorzelec. Interestingly, the German media, which praised the pushback on the Polish-Niemiec border, described the recent protest in Zgorzelec as follows. Polish neo-Nazis protest against German migrants. After public criticism of the organisers and the announcement of a lawsuit about the protest, the title changed. Neo-Nazis were replaced by right-wing extremists. Strangely enough, during this protest, a group of masked individuals also tried to start a riot, but thanks to the clever reaction of the organisers, did not succeed. All this proves that they tried to make people believe that it was a provocation in order to discredit this type of action. The topic of migration has dominated this year's election campaign in Poland. The candidate hailing from the current ruling party, Rafał Trzaskowski, has been urging for years for the acceptance of migrants. Engaging in this plan is taking out a certain insurance policy. Now it is, one could say, asymptomatic. On the other hand, Karol Nawrocki, Citizens' candidate for President of Poland, has announced a denunciation of the Migration Pact and the creation of the Office for Combating Illegal Migration. I will use all presidential prerogatives to defend the Polish border. The Migration Pact, a solidarity-based rule for the placing of migrants from Africa and the Middle East in countries of the European Union, is due to come into force next year. However, there is an opportunity for Poland. If the elections are won by an option that unequivocally opposes it, as in 2015, the process may still be stopped.
After a 3-day negotiating marathon, the White House released 2 separate statements, summarizing the talks with Kiev and Moscow representatives. The most significant points speak of a ceasefire in the Black Sea and a clarification of the ban on attacks on energy targets. The documents also read about restoring Russia's access to agricultural and fertilizer exports. There is also mention of an exchange of prisoners of war.
Нам потрібен рух до реального миру.
We need a movement for real peace, for guaranteed security. We all need this in Ukraine, in Europe, in America, everyone in the world who wants peace in international relations. Russia is the only entity that prolongs this war and mocks our people and the whole world.
Які затягують цю війну.
Asked by reporters, U.S. President Donald Trump made it clear that in addition to the officially stated topics of the talks, the negotiators also raised other pressing issues.
Well, it's one of the things that we're talking about. I know that no decision's been made. We're talking about territory right now. We're talking about lines of demarcation. We're talking about power plant.
Talks in Saudi Arabia were supposed to pave the way for a permanent ceasefire in Ukraine and consequently peace, but the road is bumpy and uncertain. While the Russians in Riyadh were talking about peace, more Russian rockets were falling on Ukrainian cities. This is what the Kiev region looked like tonight. And this is already the northeastern part of Ukraine, where rockets fell on civilian buildings. The morning unveiled the enormity of the destruction. I called my daughter and asked, "Are you alive? Is everyone alive?" She answered, "Mom, everyone is alive." That was the most important thing for me. I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember anything else. The civilian tragedy may not end soon, as Russia has rejected a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire across the front line. That will be the subject of future talks. But even the current arrangement for a cessation of hostilities in the Black Sea is already a great relief, if only for the residents of the port city of Odessa, who have been living under constant threat from Russian aggressors for the past 3 years. An operation targeting Houthi militants in Yemen was watched by the whole world. In raids on rebel bases that lasted more than a week, the Americans eliminated top leaders of what is considered a terrorist organization. As it turns out, however, top politicians in Donald Trump's administration had a lot of doubts about whether they should intervene at all. The matter came to light through human error, as analysts put it, and adding a journalist to a closed group in one of the instant messengers, who was following the exchanges between politicians.
It's a robust conversation. It's actually pretty impressive in some ways. They're going back and forth. A lot of resentment directed at European allies of the United States, which obviously enhanced the credibility of this chain, because everybody in the chain sounded like the people I know who are in this administration. Nevertheless, it wasn't until Saturday that I was reasonably certain that this wasn't a hoax.
A brawl has erupted in the United States over the excerpt of the conversation that was made public. It is mainly about the very fact of discussing such plans using an internet instant messenger. According to experts, however, this one is extremely secure, and the leak occurred through an error, not a security breach.
With any of these public systems, of course, there's huge efforts to make them as secure as possible, and Signal stands out as one that is working extremely hard with end-to-end encryption and other measures it takes to ensure that any messages sent over its network are secure.
This situation will certainly serve as a warning, not only to the U.S. political scene. On the other hand, through the error, the world has gained a glimpse behind the scenes of American foreign policy. From excerpts of the conversation, an interesting picture emerges of what Washington may or may not do. Whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the president's request, we are working with the Department of Defense and State to determine how to compile the cost associated and levy them on the Europeans. If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet, on our side of the ledger, who can do this. Nobody else is even close. The question is timing. I feel like now is as good a time as any, given the POTUS directive to reopen shipping lanes. The disclosure of this conversation could cost the security advisor his job. According to commentators, however, it is clear that, contrary to critics, the United States continues to play its role as guardian of world order. But when it comes to paying the cost, the United States wants something in return. Because of the need for power projection and for the foundation of U.S. policy, that is, free trade on the seas, the new administration, unlike Biden, is able to respond very quickly to threats to free trade on the seas, regardless of the fact that right there, American direct interests are not so important. Houthi rebels have been attacking merchant ships in the Red Sea for several years. The U.S. share of this sea route, according to Washington, is a mere 4%, compared to 40% for Europe. Today, the Americans have a presence in virtually every conflict-ridden region of the world, from the Korean Peninsula, Taiwan, the Middle East, Africa, to Europe, especially NATO's eastern flank. And while in diplomacy, the U.S. increasingly talks about the small cost-effectiveness effectiveness of support without tangible benefits. In reality, the U.S. is still the only real force capable of acting in every corner of the world in the name of security and the global balance of power.